We love an underdog. We just do. Those are the stories that fill us up. The David versus Goliath. The idea that the little guy can win. We love stories of determination and grit. In fact, if you stop and you look at a lot of Detroit sports teams, we've got grit. In fact, we've used those sorts of stories to cover up the fact that Detroit sports historically have not exactly played at their best. And yet, the stadiums are always full. There are always people in the cheap seats to watch our team do its best. There have been times we've made it, but let's be honest, more often than not, postseason in Michigan is a good time to catch up on our reading. We love an underdog. It is the nature, we seem to think, of creation to speak its mind against creator. And I don't think anybody understands that idea of sassy, belligerent creation more than a boy mom. Yeah, you see where I'm going with this. You have one boy in the house, he's scrappy. You get two boys in the house, and now they have to figure out who's really in charge. I get this a lot. My son is at that age where he is testing his strength, and his attitude often means he's writing checks verbally, he can't cash physically. There is going to be a day in which he pins me. It ain't yet. And I'm not about to roll over and let him think he can. Oh, in good-natured spirit as a loving father, I pull my punches. I don't fight as dirty as I could. In love, I'm not looking to hurt, or maybe bruise a little, especially when he starts to get the upper hand. But just as Jacob wrestled with God all night, and in the end, God said, "This is done." And when Jacob says, "It's over," when I say it's over, God knocked a hip out of line. So too is a father. There's a point in time in which the wrestling is done. It's over. And of course, the child has to come at you one more time. And I said it's over. And of course, third time is Trinitarian. And at that point, you knock them on their butts and you say, "It's done." And at that point, there's usually a begrudging surrender with an almost Saturday morning cartoon villain mustache twirl saying, "I'll be back to try again, you old man." Yeah, you're laughing. Those are the people who have lived through this. Those are the people who have scars in their drywall from this. But we fight this. That we love an underdog. We love our children. But there's this battle for control. Because we crave control. We want the dominance. We need to feel like we are the unchallenged, last word masters of our destiny. Are we really? What Psalm 2 is for. Psalm 1 and 2 are actually meant to be read together, so consider that a little bit of homework. Psalm 1 and 2 are the intro to the book of Psalms. They stand alone outside of the 5 scrolls that make up the books of Psalm. In fact, you're supposed to read 1 and 2 before you open any of those 5 scrolls and then read a further psalm. 1 and 2 tell you what the Psalms are about. The first one is the rewards of the blessed man who turns to the Lord and recognizes the power the Creator holds over creation. The second psalm is a reminder that He is our Father, but He's also the King of kings and Lord of lords. And the psalmist comes out of the gates firing in this psalm. Why do the nations rage and the people plot in vain? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord, against His anointed, saying, "Let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us." You've heard this in dozen variations. Why are you bound by those old-fashioned rules? Why do you hold to myth and superstition? Why don't you take advantage of every opportunity that you have? Why don't you live for today? Why don't you take charge of your destiny? Why don't you be your own boss? And I find it interesting because that is always the language that's used. Why don't you free yourself from the shackles of religion? From the idea, the old-fashioned idea that there's a God. Let us burst our bonds apart. Let's break out of the handcuffs. Let's cast away their cords from us. Let's get rid of these old-fashioned ideas that every life is valuable, that you're made in God's image from the womb. Let's get rid of these ideas that we're born sinful. Let's discard these old-fashioned notions of sex before marriage, or even holding marriage sacred. Let's throw off this idea of forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And let's take our rightful place as the dominant people. Let's throw off these bonds of vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, and take what we deserve. Let's not honor God as creator and the right of creator over creation, and honor the time in which He has for us to pass to. Let's talk about euthanasia and assisted suicide. When you remove God from His position as creator and the rights that come with that, suddenly all of these things flood the table. And we think, oh, well, we can change the rules. We have the right to look Him in the eye and say, we've outgrown you. Or as was proclaimed by the philosophers of the past, God is dead. Long live man, the king. And we forget, and rulers forget, that time and time and time again, Christianity has been declared dead. There were Roman emperors that had coins minted in their name that literally said destroyer of Christianity. There was a general who stood before a priest and said, I'm going to hammer Christianity out of existence. And the priest looked back at that general, knowing full well the persecution that he was about to endure. And he said, you need to understand, the church is an anvil that has worn out many a hammer. And yet again and again and again, man rises up, and God needs to remind us who's in charge. Let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their rules upon us. In this next verse, you just have to smile at it, because what is heaven's response? What is God on his throne thinking? He who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord holds them in derision. You know, Lord laughs. You can think you're in charge. The Lord laughs. And there are two ways in which to read this verse. If a 10-year-old comes up to me and says, hey, old man, do you want to square off? When it's my son, it's funny. When it's your son, it's not. It's just the way it is. When my child gets a little froggy, you can chuckle a little bit. If some random kid walks up to me who doesn't know me as their father, now it's insulting. That's the difference. We wrestle with God. Becoming Christian doesn't mean you immediately understand it all. It doesn't mean that you look at God all the time and sing kumbaya. It means you wrestle, you fight, you struggle, but ultimately you submit when the Lord tells you it's time to quit fighting. I've seen that before. I have walked with saints who have lost loved ones and look at God and scream, why? I've been with people who have received cancer diagnoses and looked at God and demanded, why? I've been with people who have prayed and struggled and wrestled, and the answer to their prayers has been no. And they don't get it this side of heaven. But ultimately, they understand that, as Paul wrote, that the present sufferings of this age are nothing compared to the eternity that awaits us. And that my hope is in the Lord. And while I don't get it, I'll accept it, because what comes from the hand of the Lord is to the glory of His kingdom. Just the truth. There are times in which the glory of the Lord comes through the healing of the sick. There are also times the glory of the Lord is shown best when a saint dies well. And yet, we don't always understand. And like Peter with Jesus, we often want to speak our mind. That's not what the Lord is laughing at. The Lord's not laughing at you. The Lord is laughing at the individual who looks at God and says, I don't need you. The Lord is looking at the person who stares God in the face and says, you don't exist. The Lord is laughing at the person who says, I outgrow you. The Lord is laughing at the arrogance of a creation that has the gall to look at a creator and a provider and simply disbelieve. In all of this, God's response is simply, what does heaven have to fear from earth? Are we going to suddenly build a tower to heaven and declare ourselves greater than the Lord? Are we going to wage war on the very gates of heaven? Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is constantly under the threat of violence, and the wicked try to take it from force. And they haven't been successful yet. They held the Son of God to a cross, and they nailed him to it. And where is your victory, death? Where is your great moment, Satan? God laughs. He doesn't laugh at our suffering. He laughs at mankind's arrogance. Powerful verse to remember, especially when you feel persecuted, especially when you look around society and you go, we're not Christian anymore. We don't have the power we used to. Things aren't as comfortable as they were. We forget the church's greatest days, the days of its greatest growth, didn't come when things were comfortable. They came when the hammer fell. They came when the anvil got hit again and again and again. The greatest moments of the church are not when things are going well for us, because society can't be Christian, people are. The culture can't be saved, people are. You can't redeem a nation. You can redeem a people. And God is in control. You see where that goes from there. Then he will speak to them in his wrath and terrify them in his fury, saying, as for me, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill. I will tell of the decree. And the Lord said to me, you are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage, and the ends of the earth your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron, and dash them in pieces like a vessel. And I have told you as we've gone through these Psalms, there are two ways to read each of these Psalms. You have an Old Testament way of reading things and a New Testament way of reading them. Yes, this Psalm is about King David. God will take him up. He will place him on a throne. David will subdue the nations around him, and he will usher in an era of peace that the nation of Israel still wants to get back to. But there's a New Testament reading to this too. The Lord did take his king, born in a manger, and set him on a hill. We celebrate the transfiguration of him today when he stood with Moses and Elijah, two men who understood the power of the Lord over kings. Moses stood before Pharaoh, and Elijah stood before Ahab. Two of the worst when it came to looking at God and saying, we don't honor you, we don't respect you, and we are not under your dominion. And both Moses and Elijah went, well, we'll see about that. Jesus stands transfigured on a hill with them. Jesus hangs on a cross on a hill named Calvary. And Jesus said the Son will be lifted up for what purpose? To draw all nations to him. What does this psalm say? I will make the nations your heritage, and the ends of the earth your possession. There isn't anywhere you can be born, choose to live, choose to dwell, call home, that you can't be saved. You shall break them with a rod of iron, a royal scepter, and dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. As I said earlier, where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? The King has come, and he sets the laws. The King has come, and he has declared you his people. The King has come to shouts of hallelujah and cries of crucify him. And as still as he ascended, said, I will be with you always to the ends of the age. Always is a powerful word. Go ahead, pass a law that says Christianity's illegal, and test that always. Go ahead, find yourself in the valley of the shadow of death and test that always. Find yourself in a hopeless situation by our measurements and test that always. And see where he's at. Because this ends with a powerful word. Now therefore, O kings, be wise. Be warned, O rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. There is a God. You will stand before him one day, whether you admit he's there or not. And you can either stand before him in your arrogance or kneel before him in your submission. But at the name of Jesus Christ, every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that he is Lord. And the fact that he came, that King to be lifted up, that King to be buried, that King to regather his flock, tells you we should rejoice. But it's rejoice with trembling. And we have lost that sight, my friends. We live in a day and an age where every church is trying to be more comfortable. That every church is trying to be more Okay, whatever goes, goes. You do you. You stay in your lane. This is your own personal Jesus. Approach him with trembling. Approach him with respect. Approach him with awe. Don't challenge his rules because you have no standing to do that. No more than my child can come in and square off with me or demand ice cream for dinner. You moms get that too. That's what you're making for dinner today? Yeah, my mom has said, I'm not a short order cook. This is what's on the table. I don't like that. It ain't going to change it. That's what's there. Well, I'll go to McDonald's. Yeah, you and what paycheck? And yet we think God is going to be different. That God somehow, because He loves us, is just going to roll over. Doesn't. He is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And yet, this last verse, kiss the Son, lest He be angry and you perish in the way, for His wrath is quickly kindled. But blessed are all those who take refuge in Him. Kiss the Son. I know that seems sort of odd. Doesn't, it's uncomfortable. But if you were around about a decade ago when Father Hana was doing his ministry up in that back room, you understood full well what kiss the Son meant because he was from overseas. He was here with broken hip and everything because he ran afoul of the Revolutionary Guard, and for his witness, they hit him. He battled with polio and struggles that made life hard. And he came here and he preached Christ while running an English as a second language class. But if you crossed him in the hallways, you got a hug, but it didn't stop at a hug. You got kissed on both cheeks and you learned to get used to it. Oh, it shocked you the first time it happened. In fact, as a pastor, it was kind of funny introducing people to him because I got to watch the look on people's faces. But he'd grab you and his words would be shalom. And he'd kiss you on both cheeks because in the Middle East, a kiss on both cheeks is a greeting that there is peace between you. Do you realize God says you have a choice? You can make peace with the Son or war with the Father, but you can't have both. There is a way of peace. It's a narrow way, but there is a way to have peace with the Father. Take hold of the Son. Kiss him on both cheeks. And be blessed. We wrestle with the Lord. That is our birthright. But at the end of the day, make peace with the Lord. Because the Lord desires to make peace with you. He sent his Son that there might be peace with you. Good Friday happened that you might know his grace, his peace, his mercy, and his love. Pentecost happened that you might have his Spirit. And the Great Commission happened that you might go to the world and declare Psalm 2. You can fight him, and you won't win. But he doesn't hold a grudge, he holds to justice. Kiss the Son. Choose this day life. and then come up to his altar, his table, and take his life into your hands, that you might live that grace, that peace, that mercy, and love. In his Son's name, amen.